Hey everyone, it's Amy with Amy Astro here, and welcome back. It's so nice to see everybody today. For those of you who don't know me, I do PixInsight tutorials, I build telescope rigs, do how-tos, I answer your questions, and sometimes I even make a video specially for you. And this week is no exception. This week we had a viewer request some more information about doing calibration, and he had come across in some of his reading lately about dark flats, or is it flat darks? Either way, it doesn't really matter, but taking dark flats is the next level up in doing your calibration, and they are super easy to do. So in this video I'm going to show you how to take them and how to process them, so stay tuned. Alright, well let's start with flats. We all know that taking flats as part of your calibration is extremely important. And the reason for wanting to do flats are to remove all the dust bunnies that's in your image train, but also to remove some of the vignetting that naturally occurs with your telescope rig. And to take flats, what I do is I take a t-shirt with a rubber band and pull it tight over the end of the telescope, and I have an LED light panel that I modified. You know, it's one of those off of Amazon. It's a tracing panel, and I added some foam core board, cut out a lip so it sits nice and easily on the end of the telescope, and it plugs in via USB on my hub. But I go ahead and I take my flats. Now let's say my flats are taken at 0.10 seconds. So when I am done taking my flats, now I need to think about my dark flats. And my dark flats are going to be used as part of the calibration process of my flat files themselves. And the main reason you want to do that is that all along we have been taking darks. And the darks are calibrated for our light images that we're taking of our deep space object. But the darks up until now have been taken, if I do a 5-minute image on my telescope, my dark frame will also be taken at 5 minutes. Well, the optimization between the 0.1 second that I'm doing on my light and the 5-minute frame here is off, and the pixels don't quite line up exactly the way they could. They've been good for now, but now we're going to up our game and take us to the next level. So what we need to do a dark flat or a flat dark is, once you're done taking your flats, go ahead and take all of this off and set this down. And next we're going to put the cover on our telescope. So now I've got the cover for my telescope. Just slide it back, pop it on, and if you've got like one of these carbon fiber telescopes, you might want to go ahead and throw a blanket over the top of it, because you know right now it's really bright, and they do have some porous, some light does get through these because it's porous in nature with the carbon fiber. But all I do now is I set up my run in Sequence Generator Pro to now take the dark flats at the exact same time as I took all my flats. So if my flats were taken at 0.1 seconds, my flats will also be taken at 0.1 second, and these flats will be calibrated with my light flat, and together they will make a master flat that I will use in my calibration files for my lights. Now, does that make sense? There's a lot of flats and a lot of calibration going on. We're going to step over to the computer right now, and I will show you how to set everything up in Sequence Generator Pro. Alright folks, I'm over here in Sequence Generator Pro, and I just wanted to quickly show you the sequence that I came up with for how I accomplish my flat sessions. Now, what I do is typically underneath my main target that I image that night, I create a new target with the word calibration behind it. And then I come down here and I set up my flats, And then this dark here happens to be my dark flat. Now I've got my flats. This exposure time came from the flat calibration wizard right here, okay? And it came up with a red filter. I needed a 0.24 second exposure. In green and blue, I just needed a 0.09 second exposure. And I take about 50 images for each one of these. Now I came down here and these say dark, but these are going to be my dark flats. And my dark flats need to be at the same exposure time as my flats themselves. So you see I have a 0.24 seconds here, and it matches the red filter. And then I needed to run another one at 0.09 seconds. And those are my two dark flats. And by calling them the type as dark, it just shows up in a different directory for me, so I'm able to sort them out. And I also have a subdirectory in there based on the image types. Now I take 50 flats, and if I have time, I take up to 100 of the dark flat frames. Now there's people out there that say use the same number of flats as you do dark flats. Some people say double the quantity. I'm not exactly sure who is right, but if I have the time, I go ahead and run double. I mean, it can't hurt anything. But this is how I set up my sequence to do things. Now, we know that the red filter is going to be at one focus point and green filter will be at another focus point. So I build in these pauses, and I start with my second target and I say pause my sequence once the first one is done, and I put in what my next focus point is, so I know to go ahead and come over here and set my focuser to it. And then I'll say okay right here. And I do that all the way down to remind myself to change my focus point. Now when it comes down here to this next one, dark, there's no normal built-in pause for this, so you've got to build that in yourself to remind you to remove your flat panel, your light source, and to cover your scope. So that's what I built in right here. I say pause the sequence, and I tell myself to go cover the scope, and I go remove the LED panel. Okay, but this is the basic setup that I do for every image session. Now, in general, these dark flats, they can be created as a master flat, and you can use them over and over again if your flats remain at 0.24 seconds or at 0.09 seconds, which typically they do if you use the same process all the way through. Alright, so we're back here, technical difficulty. So again, I create these dark flats as master dark flat frames, and say that 3 times real fast. And I can use these over and over again as long as this time does not change. And the time will stay the same if you're doing the same steps, using the same light setting, the same t-shirt. You know, now if you're doing sky flats, this will change all the time. So each time out, you will have to create a new set of dark flats. But this is my imaging session. And next we're going to go over to the other computer and we will start processing the dark flats and turning them into master flats, and I will show you how to incorporate them in your image process session. Alright, so we brought our dark flats over onto our computer, and we had to take 2 sets of dark flats, a 0.09 second and a 0.24 second. So I'm going to go ahead and process this 0.24 seconds. And since these are darks, I don't need to calibrate them. I just need to go straight into the integration process. So let's go to image integration and let's go grab those files. Alright, these are my dark flats, the 0.24 second. Grab all of them. And we'll go down here to our how we want to integrate them. We're going to use average. We'll change this over here to additive with scaling. I don't care about the weight, so I'll leave that there. I'll leave these all at default. Pixel rejection, since I believe I have 50 files here. Nope, I have 100 files. I will go with linear fit clipping, And normalization, I'll just stick with the default, which is the scale plus 0 offset. And we'll go ahead and take a peek at what the rejection maps look like. The rest of this stays as the default straight from the software package. And we will apply global. All right, now that those have done running, let's just take a peek and see what they look like. This is our slope, rejection. You've got some pixels there. This is going to be our high rejection. Yep. And I don't need to keep any of these files. I just like looking at them. And there's our lows. And this is what our, oops, the wrong file opened up there. This one. And this is what our dark flat will look like. And this is our dark file for our flats, is what I should probably clarify here. And all I'm going to do is I renamed this file here with the right mouse click. I did the identifier and I gave it a name that I would understand. It's my dark flat is 024 seconds, and I said okay. And save this file, okay? So I'm just going to minimize that down to there, and let's reset our image integration. Now that we have our master dark flat, we're going to calibrate that with our regular flats that were taken at 0.24 second. And my regular flats that were taken at 0.24 seconds just happens to be red. So I need to calibrate all these red images with that new dark flat image. And we're going to do that instead of using the full master dark that I've got here taken at 240 seconds. That's a 4-minute image. And that's what my whole image train was. My whole sequence that I took this last time, I did everything at 4 minutes. So don't need those. All right, so let's get back over here. All right, so let's go ahead and run our calibration. Let's see, it's not there, so let's go to Process, Image Calibration, and let's calibrate those red flat files with our new dark that we just created. So let's go back here and get to the right directory. Everything's running just a little bit slow here. Here we go. There's my red files, my red flats that I took. I took them at 24 seconds. I'm going to grab all of them and say open. My output directory. Let's go back to my red flats, which is this directory. And let's give it a folder name. I'm just going to call this Calibration 2 since I've run this previously. And let's say open. And that's where I'm going to put my flat red calibrated files. Let's see, I'm not going to do this with any bias. And my master dark is going to be the new dark flat master that we created. But this gets really confusing with some of these terms. All right, my dark flat, which I took at right here, 024 seconds. All right, so it's right there. Now, because this was taken at 024 seconds and these were at 024 seconds, I do not need to optimize. I'd optimize them if I was using my 4-minute dark here, and that would cause some stretching and all that. But the whole purpose of this is to make everything 1-to-1 and not have the computer doing any fancy manipulation to our file. And I'll go ahead and I'm going to check this calibrate. And since we are creating our master flat for my red filter, I don't need to choose that. And let's just say run. All right, now that those calibration files have run, now we're going to take and make ourselves a master red flat. So we're going to integrate those calibration files we just created. All right, let's find the files that we just created the calibration with. They're flats, they're reds. I'm going to grab this set here. There's all the files we just calibrated. And open. Now I'm going to make these into one image that will be my master flat for my red filter. Combination will be average. Normalization, we're going to do multiplicative. Weights are, again, I don't care. Pixel rejection, I'll make that linear fit clipping because I have 50 flat files. And the normalization is going to be this equalize flux. And I will leave these as the defaults. And let's run this. And we should end up with our master flat. All right, and here is our master flat image. Let's look at the slope. Nothing fancy there. And you don't have to look at these rejection maps if you don't want to. You just uncheck that map box. Alright, and this is going to be my master flat. And you can see I have some serious sensor cleaning that I need to do. And I'm pretty sure all these dust spots are on the filter themselves, because my sensor, if it was on the sensor, it'd be these real tiny ones. These are probably on the glass on top of the sensor, but these are further down in my image train. So they're either on the filter or they're on the end of my field flattener. But this is my new flat red that I'm going to use to calibrate with the rest of my image when I get to processing it. Now, the improvement over this image versus using one that I had a dark frame that I would have intended for my images being at the full 4 minutes is I didn't have to optimize, so there was no stretching or pulling of these pixels or anything for them to line up properly. So really this is the best way to do it, and over time you'll start noticing these subtleties, and in general it does improve your picture. Alright everybody, now we have learned how to take our dark flats, we have learned how to process our dark flats, and we've learned how to calibrate it against our flat frame. Now this is taking our processing calibrations up a whole nother level, and you will see your images will be improving by doing this one extra step. So I hope everybody enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit like below, share it with all your Astro friends. Don't forget to subscribe, and please hit that alert bell. This way you know when I upload new Astro related material. I look forward to seeing you all again next week, and if you have any comments, leave them below. If you have a suggestion for another video, leave it below, or follow me over there on Facebook as Amy Astro. I do answer all the questions. If I don't have the answer, I will find the answer for you, or I'll hook you up with somebody else who does know the answer. So remember, this channel is about you. It's about you, not me. So let me know what you all want to see. Until next time, y'all, this is Amy Astro signing off. Love all y'all.